Okay, welcome everybody to today's class. We are doing idioms and phrasal verbs once again. Seems to be quite a popular series, and so I think a lot of people like to just find the book somewhere. I'm not sure where you find the book, but it's Advanced Idioms and Phrasal Verbs. If you put it into Google or Amazon, you're bound to find it. It's a nice white book, and I recommend it. It's a great book. Let's get that light off the screen. Sorry about that. Hello Lolly. I've noticed that you come here every single time right from the beginning, so thanks for all of the support. I do appreciate it. I want to start by giving a shout out to somebody. This is a phrasal verb that's been turned into a noun. It's very modern English. I think young people will be very aware of this expression. And to give a shout out to somebody means to say to someone that you appreciate or you're glad about something that they've done. So I've just given a shout out to Lolly. So hi Lolly. And to Sasha, hi Sasha, and another Sasha, hi Sasha. But I want to give a shout out to Matthias in Swansea, because Matthias in Swansea has left me a lovely review on Amazon, a nice 5-star review for this book, which is of course the book that I'm trying to sell you all, Visual Phrasal Verbs. He's given me a lovely 5-star review. So if anybody else out there would like to give me another lovely 5-star review, I'll be very pleased with you, and I'll certainly be giving you a shout out in one of these classes. So thanks Matthias in Swansea. That's a town in Wales, for those of you that don't know. But we're on to about chapters 8 and 9 of Advanced Phrasal Verbs and Idioms. And I hope you can see that this book's very good for revising what we've already found out in this book, which you can buy on my website, skype-lessons.com, or on Amazon if you want a physical copy. You can get the PDF on my website. Okay, so your flesh and blood. This simply means your relatives. Your flesh and blood are your relatives. You might recall I did a lesson a long time ago, maybe not so long ago, but on rhetorical devices. And I remember that we talked about anadiplosis, which is the repetition of something at the end of one clause and at the start of the next clause, or at the end of a sentence and then at the start of the next sentence. I think it's a wonderful rhetorical device. And so in Shakespeare, I remember it was she being none of your flesh and blood. Your flesh and blood has not offended the king. So you have your flesh and blood repeated. But it just means your family, your relatives. It's what you think it means. Okay, to fight like cats and dogs, it just means to fight all the time, yeah? And sometimes you see it to fight like cat and dog. You do sometimes see it without the S, sometimes with the S. But it just means if two people fight like cat and dog, they're obviously fighting all the time. It's a kind of a simile. It's a very old and tired simile, and I do agree with George Orwell that you should probably avoid really outdated metaphors and similes. They've been used too many times. Okay, there's little love lost between them. It means that they don't like each other. It means that whoever the them is, they don't like each other. There's little love lost between them. They don't like each other. Okay? To close ranks, this is an interesting expression. When you close ranks, it means that you come together, you group yourselves together to defend each other. And so usually members of a family may well close ranks in order to defend other members of the family. But it could be a group of friends that close ranks. It could be workers in a company that close ranks. It could be a group of policemen, for example, that close ranks when one of their friends is in trouble, or a group of soldiers that close ranks. It's clearly from the military, this expression, to close ranks, because I think rank comes from rank in the military. I think so, anyway. So it's when people come together and stick together to defend each other, they close ranks. Now, to turn on somebody means to suddenly attack a former friend. It has a second meaning, this expression, but it's slightly different grammar. But to turn on someone, if a dog turns on its master, then it means that at first it's a faithful dog, but then it bites the hand that's feeding it. It bites its master. So to turn on a former friend means that you were friends with this person, but then you suddenly attacked them. You decided that they were your enemy in some kind of way. So this means to attack a former ally or friend. Now remember that it has a second very different meaning, and this would be to turn somebody on rather than to turn on someone. To turn somebody on, this is a sexual meaning. If you turn somebody on, you get them sexually excited. If you turn somebody off, it's the opposite. You disgust them, you repulse them. There's something about you that that person finds very unattractive and very repulsive. Okay, so turn somebody on or turn somebody off, they're different from turn on someone, where you attack a former friend or ally. If somebody is as miserable as sin, it just means they're really, really, really miserable. And this is quite a useful word in its own right, sin. It's a religious concept, and it means a bad thing that a person might do. A sin is a crime against God, basically. It's a crime, but it's a crime against God, so it's a religious kind of crime and not law and order kind of crime. So very useful word, I think, and as miserable as sin, really unhappy. If something is accounted for, it is explained. So you might say, how can you account for the hot weather? How can you explain the hot weather? Yeah. How can you account for the lack of interest in this project? How can you explain the lack of interest? So a nice simple one there, but very useful. To take somebody for granted. We did to take something for granted yesterday or the day before, and I did mention this one at the same time, but I'm going to repeat it because it's a useful one. If you take something for granted, you assume it is true. If you take somebody for granted, this is always negative, it seems to me. I can't think of a time when you'd use it in a positive way, maybe neutral, but usually negative, and it means that you don't appreciate that person when you take them for granted. You don't appreciate all the things that they do for you. So I think I gave you the example of a wife who does all the work around the house and you just take her for granted, but in the end she leaves you because she's tired of you being lazy and not helping out at all. Something like that. But yeah, take somebody for granted, it means just not appreciate what they do for you and just expect them to carry on doing it. But one day they may decide to stop. Okay, on top of can mean in addition to. So you might say something like, he earns commission on top of his salary. Yeah, he earns commission in addition to his salary. Or you might say, on top of my salary, I earn a very tiny amount from the YouTube videos, and I mean from the advertising revenue. And so I could say that I get a little bit of income on top of my salary.